What if I told you that the key to attracting women, especially as you grow older, has nothing to do with your money, your looks, or any clever lines you've memorized? It sounds almost too simple, yet most men completely overlook it. There are two words, just two, that tap into something much deeper inside the female mind. These words don't just create attraction, they build emotional connection in a way that most men never even realize is possible. And here's the part that makes all the difference. There's a subtle detail behind them that separates the men who are instantly forgotten from the ones women can't stop thinking about. If you stay with me, you'll see exactly how this works and why it can completely change the way you communicate. Over the years, after observing countless interactions between men and women, one clear pattern stands out. The men who naturally attract attention aren't always the most handsome or the wealthiest. Instead, they understand one simple principle better than everyone else: direct emotional communication. While most men get stuck in safe, empty conversations, trying too hard to impress or avoid rejection, the ones who stand out do the opposite. They speak with intention. They use language that reaches beyond surface-level talk and connects on an emotional level. And right at the center of this approach are two powerful words that act like keys to the subconscious mind. The human brain is wired to respond to certain communication patterns, and when used correctly, these words create what's known as positive emotional anchoring. That means you're not just having a conversation, you're creating a feeling that stays with her long after the moment is over. The first of these words is surprisingly simple: I want. It may sound ordinary, but when a man says I want with clarity and confidence, something shifts immediately. He's no longer seeking approval or testing the waters. He's expressing a clear desire, and that alone changes the entire dynamic of the interaction. When you say I want with confidence, you're doing something most men avoid. You're taking full ownership of your desires. You're not asking for permission, and you're not hiding behind uncertainty. You're being direct. And here's something important to understand about female psychology. Women are naturally drawn to men who know what they want. It signals leadership. It shows that you can make decisions and won't shift that responsibility onto her. That sense of direction is incredibly attractive because it creates clarity and ease in the interaction. Think about the way most men communicate. They say things like, I don't know, maybe we could hang out sometime if you want. On the surface, it sounds polite, but underneath it communicates hesitation, fear of rejection, and lack of confidence. Now compare that to a man who says, I want to take you out to dinner this Saturday, I know a great place. The difference is immediate and undeniable. One approach feels uncertain and passive, while the other feels grounded, decisive, and intentional. You're not chasing approval, you're offering an experience. This isn't about being forceful or overbearing. It's about being assertive in a calm, grounded way. It's about having the confidence to take up space and express what you truly want without apology. When you do this, you activate something known as sexual polarity. You position yourself as the one who leads, who takes initiative, and that naturally invites her to respond with her feminine energy. It creates a dynamic that feels exciting, natural, and emotionally engaging. But here's where many men go wrong. They stop here. They think expressing desire is enough. And while I want is powerful on its own, it can sometimes come across as self-focused. That's why the second word is just as important, because it balances everything. And once you understand how these two words work together, you'll unlock a completely different level of connection that most men never reach. The second word is where everything truly comes together, and it's the one that transforms simple attraction into something deeper and far more meaningful. That word is I appreciate. On its own, it may seem gentle, even ordinary, but when combined with I want, it creates a powerful balance that very few men know how to use. Because now, you're no longer just expressing desire, you're showing awareness, depth, and genuine recognition of who she is. If you only say I want, the interaction can feel one-sided, as if you're focused only on what you're getting. But when you add I appreciate, you shift the entire emotional tone. You show that you're not just taking, you're valuing, you're not just pursuing, you're noticing. And that distinction is what makes the connection feel real. For example, instead of saying, I want to see you again, you say, I want to see you again because I appreciate the way you think. Talking to you feels different. That one small addition changes everything. Now, she doesn't just hear your interest, she feels seen. Most men make the mistake of staying on the surface. They compliment appearance, they focus on the obvious, and as a result, they blend in with everyone else. But when you express appreciation for her perspective, her energy, or the way she communicates, you stand apart instantly. You're recognizing something deeper, something that actually matters to her identity, and that creates a level of emotional impact that physical compliments rarely achieve. There's another subtle layer here that makes this even more powerful. When your appreciation is genuine, it doesn't come from a place of need, it comes from choice. You're not trying to win her over, you're acknowledging her because you truly value what you see, and that difference is something she can feel immediately. It creates trust, attraction, and emotional resonance all at once. But even with these two words, there's a critical mistake that can ruin everything if you're not careful. That mistake is a lack of congruence, and this is where everything can fall apart if you're not aware of it. Congruence simply means alignment. Your words, your tone, and your body language all telling the same story. Because it doesn't matter how powerful your words are if your presence contradicts them. In fact, when there's a mismatch, the impact doesn't just weaken, it completely disappears. Imagine saying, "I want to take you out," but your posture is closed, your voice is uncertain, and your eyes keep drifting away. The words suggest confidence, but everything else signals doubt. And the mind on the receiving end picks up on that instantly. It's like an internal filter that detects inconsistency without effort. So instead of creating attraction, you create confusion. When you say "I want," your body needs to support it. Stand upright, hold steady eye contact, and speak with clarity. Let your presence carry the same confidence as your words. And when you say "I appreciate," slow things down. Give that moment space. Let sincerity come through your tone, because that's what makes it feel real rather than rehearsed. Timing also plays a huge role. These words aren't meant to be repeated constantly. They're most effective when used at meaningful moments, when you genuinely want to express intent or create a lasting impression. For example, at the end of a great interaction, saying "I want to see you again," "I appreciate the energy you bring," leaves a strong emotional mark that lingers long after you've gone. Now you understand the tools. Use them honestly, use them wisely, and let your communication reflect who you truly are. Now here's something most men never fully realize. These words are not techniques to memorize. They are reflections of how you see yourself. If you struggle to say "I want" with confidence, it usually means you're not fully comfortable owning your desires. And if "I appreciate" feels unnatural, it often means you're not used to observing people on a deeper level. So the real shift doesn't just happen in your words, it starts in your mindset. When you begin to think clearly about what you want and allow yourself to express it without hesitation, your communication naturally becomes stronger. And when you train yourself to notice the unique qualities in others, your appreciation becomes more authentic. This is what makes your words land with impact instead of sounding rehearsed. Also, understand this: rejection doesn't lose its sting by avoiding clarity. In fact, unclear communication creates more confusion and wasted time. When you're direct, you create honest outcomes. Some interactions will move forward, others won't. But every time, you walk away with certainty instead of doubt. That alone builds confidence over time. The goal here isn't perfection, it's alignment. When your thoughts, words, and actions match, you become naturally compelling without trying too hard. And that's what truly sets you apart. If you want to keep improving and learn how to communicate with real impact, don't stop here. At the core of everything you've learned is a simple truth. Real attraction isn't built on tricks, it's built on alignment. The words "I want" and "I appreciate" only work when they come from a place of honesty. They are not lines to impress someone, they are expressions of clarity and awareness. When you're clear about your intentions and confident enough to express them, your presence naturally becomes stronger. At the same time, when you genuinely notice and value something deeper in another person, your appreciation carries real weight. That's what creates connection. It's not about saying more, it's about meaning what you say. And when both of these elements come together, you create interactions that feel real, grounded, and memorable. You also begin to understand that not every interaction needs to succeed. What matters is that you show up as someone who is direct, aware, and authentic. That alone sets you apart in a world where most communication feels uncertain. So take this, apply it in real situations, and focus on being consistent rather than perfect. If you're ready to keep growing and want more insights like this, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for what's coming next.